Hello YouTube, my name is James PFP. I'm still dealing with a bit of a flu. Won't be too much longer, I think it'll be better. My throat is much better today. I'm watching my YouTube page here to see how the stream is handling. I've been listening back to my own output the last several days to see what I've been putting out there and how many views people might have seen this. They might have enjoyed it, they might not have. Highly think it's very likely they didn't enjoy everything. It is what it is. I do have something queued up and ready to go tonight though. I just finished watching it and I'm using a word I admitted to not liking seconds ago. Yeah, maybe I'll do it this way. Dark room, huh? It's the background image tonight. Reason why I'm doing it this way is I've already watched this. I've already commented on everything throughout the course of, but what I didn't do, well, I didn't do nothing? No, I did do something. I normally leave a time code at the beginning of whatever I do in terms of a comment to refer specifically to whatever it is I'm responding to given the video content of YouTube. That way it tends to eliminate any problems on identifying the specific thing I might be raising or commenting on or whatever. But on all the sub-threaded comments on this one, I didn't necessarily put a time code for them. I could skip ahead here to where the first one begins. The title for the thing in the beginning kind of says it all. Lionel destroys obnoxious liberal media shill and Podesta apostle. Eric Alterman on RT's Crosstalk. So I'm going to happily comment on the content as provided by RT's Crosstalk. And Lionel is providing it to us on YouTube because he participated in this, which is how, I guess, through YouTube's license, I would imagine. If they want to monetize this, but I don't think he monetizes it.
Welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are
I've never seen an ad.
Trust in the mainstream media is at an all-time low. But
True.
No one should be surprised, and the media has itself to blame. This sad state of affairs is a self-inflicted wound and actually a conscious business model.
I hope you can hear this.
The media no longer has an interest in reporting news. Media today propagates ideology.
So we have about a minute there at the beginning. Get a hard setup and go.
Cross-talking the state of the media, I'm joined by my guest, Eric Alterman in New York. He is a SUNY Distinguished Professor of English and Journalism at Brooklyn College.
Professor of English and Journalism. I think he has a history degree or something.
As well as the liberal media columnist for The Nation. Also in New York, we have Lionel. He's a legal analyst and a news decoder at lionelmedia.com. And in Plymouth, we cross to Patrick Henningsen. He is a journalist, writer, and founder of the news website 21stCenturyWire.com. All right, gentlemen, crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want.
You can jump in at any time you want, okay? That's an interesting promise at the beginning of this thing. I didn't comment on this before. Well, watch what happens.
And I always appreciate it. Let me go to Lionel first in New York. I'm not going to list all of the mistakes the mainstream media has made over the last few months because that would take up the entire program and then some. Suffice to say, Lionel, I think it's quite evident that the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, and other news organizations, they're making mistakes because they have a blind hatred for Donald Trump. Their blind hatred is throwing journalists fear in the United States, and I would say the political
derangement syndrome in full bloom.
Okay.
It's negligence, it's malfeasance, and also, isn't it amazing and shocking, perhaps, that none of these mistakes ever inure to the benefit of Trump or anybody else, or they never deal with Hillary Clinton or those of the so-called left and progressive left or whatever. It's always a unidirectional mistake. There's never, and by the by, the biggest problem right now that is facing this country is not this promulgation,
Nobody's
this
jumping in.
proliferation, I should say, of sexual dalliances.
No,
it's
no
the
jumping.
fact that today's mainstream media, today's Ted Baxter, sock puppet, echo chamber, rancid, odious, ossified media is dead. It's through. It's in the death throes, and it faces an existential threat. That's their problem. And you think they'd be shaping up instead of becoming more and more negligent. That's what's amazing.
Eric, let me go to you. That's a very good point to mention. I mean, they should get their
Eric
acts
is
together,
the
but,
schmuck in the top corner.
We still don't know why three
Not
different
Peter.
outlets confirmed the same
Other corner.
bogus Russia story last week. They just had a retraction or an
Bogus.
update. But they didn't explain to the public how they came to that disastrous conclusion across the board. I mean, no wonder people don't trust the media anymore. They're not transparent. Go ahead, Eric.
I find everything I've heard said on this program so far to be ridiculous.
Okay.
I think the mainstream media are, first of all, the word media is a plural noun, so to talk about the media.
Oh, thanks a lot. First of all,
You have to make distinctions between which media you're discussing.
really? Really? Do we really? Do we really?
I think the media you mean, which is CNN, the New York Times, Washington Post, etc., I think they're an important because
I wonder how he knew to pick certain properties and arrange them in that order. I wonder how he knew to do it.
they are faced with a president who lies on average 6 times a day. That's a statistic compiled by the Washington Post. He probably lies much more than that. Those are the lies they've caught using a very narrow definition of lies.
So the mainstream media
committed all
doesn't
kinds
lie?
of acts.
The mainstream media doesn't lie?
Thanks, Peter.
Is that what you're saying?
Peter, that's
Well,
right.
First of all, we're talking. Well, I'm pretty capable of saying exactly what I want. So you don't have to put words in my mouth.
Well, I'm trying to understand your words.
Fox
That's all.
News lies.
Fox News lies. Look how happy he is that you got something he can yell over and over.
Fox News lies, but no.
Tell me, is this the result of behavioral reconditioning? I have to ask. So, while after admitting that the New York Times, WAPO, and CNN is what we're talking about, he defended the WAPO stats, thanks Mr. High Standards of Intellectual Honesty, and for to back it up, he'll only say that Fox News lies. But he's sitting on his one arse cheek, and perhaps it cost him a load of time with Skinner and behavioral adaptation to make sure he wouldn't, give anything else away. Because you know what happens if you do.
The mainstream media, by and large, certainly the New York Times, Washington Post, and other reputable outlets, never lie on purpose.
Bang! Oh my God! Certainly the reputable outlets never lie on purpose. Certainly not going to say that during the month that they release a movie about the WAPO. Hey, this guy's going to be fun for the rest of the winter.
They make mistakes, but it's very hard to cover a president who is purposely undermining American democracy, who, again, lies on average 6 times a day and doesn't care that he's caught lying. Let me ask you a question. Just take one, for instance.
Let's take one, for instance. One's going to prove the fucking rule for him,
Trump
okay?
repeatedly tweeted that Barack Obama wiretapped him.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm not done. He's defending still against the wiretapping and Obama, which tells anyone watching that this has never been adequately demonstrated as a lie, and his denial won't make Obama not guilty. Right? I'm not done times 3 or times 6. This is going to be the next. People are going to challenge him on this very point that he's just made. It's inevitable. These two are going to collide with him. Inevitable. He knows it. Watch.
On purpose. Now, the Justice Department found that that was not true. Has Donald Trump apologized for that?
there seems to be
He knows there's an inevitable coming.
overwhelming evidence that he was surveilled. He was surveilled.
I'm not
okay.
done. I'm not
All right.
done.
Let me go
I'm
to.
not done.
Okay.
No, there's no evidence.
I'm not done. What's, you on a fucking pot or some shit? What are you having, a crap? I'm not done 3 or 6 times, as many times as necessary. Shit or get off the pot, Skippy Bot. Appears that the podesta touch is what a person might term as patronizing.
No, I said before this program started that I don't want to.
I'm not done.
Because I believe in freedom of speech, and I would like to hear
I still got number
from
2s.
Patrick in Plymouth. Go ahead, Patrick. React to what you've heard so far.
Yeah. First of all, I'm gonna disagree with what Eric said about the.
Oh, because Patrick could have jumped in at any moment in time, and they left it for the fucking moderator to do, simply for the keep the left guy on the frame at all, is what happened. Because if he had gone after him the minute that he had said bullshit, he wouldn't have agreed to the interview.
Finding the terms, I'm going to say media as a singular entity, because when it comes to things Russian or all things Trump, the media.
Fuck you. Grammatically incorrect, says the Nazi. Immediately.
Correct, but it does represent the reality.
Says the Nazi. You heard me. The grammar Nazi. Didn't you get it? Grammatically incorrect.
Completely together and.
Let me rearrange my armband before you continue with your, because I'm sick and tired of your bullshit.
Lockstep, reading off the same hymn sheet on all things Russian. And if
lockstep, yeah, goose-stepping
the mainstream media, these are all fake news stories from mainstream media. This is just my file for the Washington Post.
He's an online journalist, right?
CNN. Granted, CNN's half of this, but this is.
Medium, media, plural, and the prick cannot even allow Lionel the latitude to play with an idea. So Lionel picks up on the fact that the guy just deconstructed the liberal dude in the top corner.
Perhaps my favorite, Pokemon Go was hijacked by Vladimir Putin to mislead Americans. This is a CNN exclusive. This is just one example of many. And to say that what you're doing, Eric, is creating a false equivalency, trying to.
Now, if I might, I have a criticism for Patrick. I really do, and I put it out of order here. What you're doing is trying to create a false equivalence is going to occur again at 9:05. So early on in the interview, 6:13, we hear about a false equivalency. Look at this guy up here. He's practically writing it down in his head.
Twitter tirades.
He's paying attention now, isn't he? Because the false equivalency is going to matter to him, who's getting caught the fuck out. So watch.
To the fourth, what's supposed to be the fourth estate, who has a.
It's nice that Patrick tells us something which might be true, but explaining it to this son of a bitch is a bad idea.
Collective budget, operating budget of over $10 billion dollars in the United States. All of these mainstream media outlets basically putting out fake news. The CNN WikiLeaks story is quite interesting because the same so-called sources were used apparently by CBS News as well as CNN and others. And you read the email and you could see the date. It was September 14th. So I had the question is, did these sources actually read the so-called evidence, or should it have been done in Braille? Or the CNN's journalists, so-called journalists, are they illiterate? How does this type of mistake come to be, and how is it repeated and passed on to other, laundered through CNN and then on to CBS? And they use Twitter. CNN uses Twitter to put fake news out and then retracts it.
Let me go to Lionel here. I mean, that's okay. The story that was just mentioned by Patrick. They want to believe.
He won't even countenance anybody saying anything about the word he defended at the very beginning. He needs to defend the media. That's his mission. That's his very fucking point of existence, is to defend the media. Nothing else. Yet he's supposed to be a professor of something.
In what they say. They see this and they jump on board. Is it laziness, or is it, what level of intentionality? Because like I said, there's so many.
He responded to the word laziness.
Of them. I mean, Patrick just held up a whole stack of them. I mean, it seems endless. I can't imagine this would have happened during the Obama.
I call it a hat trick for Patrick. I really do.
Administration. Go ahead, Lyon.
Well, at first you have to start off with the idea, as evidence, Exhibit A, well, after all, you have the most lying president, so therefore anything that happens is somehow outweighed and canceled by the fact that, well, Trump...
Yeah, we should be so lucky, Lionel, that he'd be that easy to listen to.
...was a liar. Let's take this week. Now, all you have is a CNN story about Donald Trump Jr. and a WikiLeaks memo or email. And all it did was reading a date correctly. It's all it involved was just reading a date correctly and not say, 4/14. That's all it was. It was a
This is a funny thing I'm going to throw in right here, too. I didn't want to put it into the comments below, but I've had to do this on other videos specifically because of the use of the word not see. I take this I don't take it offensively, but I think it's a grammatical construction which is it's overused in order to semantically suggest an idea of another nature by throwing that particular grammatical construction in it. It works. Tell me it doesn't.
Position of numbers. That's all it was. Now you tell me how Donald Trump's mendacity, and thank you for clarifying that medium is a singular noun and not a plural, but tell me how tell me how his mendacity.
He said medium, you idiot.
And his ability to
He jumped in right away. He jumped in right away, right? He jumped in as soon as he wanted to jump in. He jumped in. Am I lying?
Wax veritas. Could you explain to me how that has anything to do with CNN or somebody else just saying, you know what, we made a mistake? That's all it is.
Eric, do you want to reply to that? Go ahead.
Sure. First of all,
he catches the son of a bitch out.
well, I'm not here
He
to
jumped in. He shouldn't have jumped in. He wasn't ready to fucking say something, right?
defend CNN. I think CNN is pretty crappy.
Excuse me? Excuse me? What are you doing trying to create a false equivalence? I think that CNN is pretty crappy. He says this at 8:51.
And they did make a mistake, and they did admit it. So journalists make mistakes all the time. It's a very imperfect practice. That's why
8:51, he says CNN is pretty crappy. He says that.
it's called the first draft of history. The press is.
First draft of history was who?
Who said that?
What
David
you
Frum.
were doing.
Did David Frum really say that, or was someone else working him from behind?
Is actually trying to create a false equivalence between the deliberate lies
What?
of the Trump administration and its supporters.
A false equivalence. What are you doing trying to create a false equivalence between ... Shut the fuck up, you turd, and get an original idea. Honest to Christ. This is why it never ever helps to explain something on behalf of a lying propagandist. They are never out to inform, they're always out to pervert. And that's what he's doing.
And the mistakes that are part of being a journalist. I'm not saying they don't make mistakes. I'm not saying this wasn't
No,
a
I'm
serious
not.
mistake.
No, I'm
CNN
not.
admitted it's a mistake.
No, I'm not. I'm
CNN has
attacking your
admitted it's a
specious
mistake.
premise.
Has Donald Trump?
No, it's not.
When
No, no,
has
no.
Donald Trump? I'm
Thanks.
not done, sir. I'm not done.
I'm not done, sir.
Finish? When has Donald Trump admitted that
Oh,
Barack
you're
Obama
done.
was born in the United States? Waiting.
Okay, let's talk about something else.
What date
all
did
right?
that happen?
This is very good, Alderman. Very
Okay,
good.
something else. Sure.
Don't talk about what
Sure.
we're talking about now. Bring something else up. Fantastic. Look, I was
I
giving
just
you an
did.
example.
I just did.
I was
He
attacking.
said whether or not Barack Obama was born in the United States is the way that he put it.
Your absolutely baseless claim. You said the problem is, forget the fact that this is fake media. We have the most lying and the most mendacious president there is. That's what you said. I was addressing that. So what do when you're losing the argument? Let's bring up the birther thing. Let's change the subject. Look, I don't know with whom you debate on a regular basis.
Listen,
or what
fella, that's
circles you
not...
have.
Listen, fella, what the fuck? Skippy Bot got teeth? Skippy Bot knows how to fight? Skippy Bot's like a Pokemon thing. My Skippy Bot's all fucking ready to go. Listen, fella, you better stand off or I'll give you a punch +2.
What I said. What
But
I
that
said is...
doesn't
Skippy
work.
Bot,
What
Skippy
I
Bot.
said is...
Listen, fella.
Okay, what
Listen,
I said. You're
fella, yeah.
misrepresenting what I said.
Listen, fella. This is I might as well skip ahead here to like 13:05 because there's another segment coming up. We get more of the same for the next little while. 13:05.
I actually believe that they think that they're doing the right thing. But what bothers me is what we said in this program is it damages the profession of journalism in the process and the trust people have in the media. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, first of all, I concede nothing you just said. To go back to...
First of all, I concede nothing you just said. It's what the guy starts with for round 2, and it took me until now to realize he's a Skippy Bot when I first watched this, who hasn't had his operating system updated since last January. This guy is a Skippy Bot that's that old. That's what I think Lionel might be working out. That explains why he starts with wiretapping as a problem. The worst antivirus news crawler app ever is what he's operating with.
To the previous point, I happen to have written my doctoral
You hear
dissertation
laughter?
at Stanford.
You hear the laughter in the background? I don't know who's laughing. Somebody's laughing in the background. Listen.
Well, first of all, I concede nothing you just said. To go back to the previous point, I happen to have written my doctoral dissertation at Stanford University on presidential lying, on the history of presidential lying. I published a book called When Presidents Lie, and I'm writing a
Obama didn't do nothing to serial key cryptocurrency of Palooza.
second book on presidential lying right now for basic books. Not all presidents lie. It's true, most presidents lie.
didn't
Certainly
lie.
most modern
Obama never
presidents
told a lie.
May I
Did he,
finish?
Eric?
May I finish?
Obama didn't do nothing.
May I finish?
Obama
well,
won't be in your new book.
lie-
I
the
guarantee
Eric, keep going, Eric, keep going.
Well, the example you brought up, sir, is not a lie. Obama said he would close Gitmo. He tried to close Gitmo, and Congress wouldn't let him. That's not a lie.
We're
That's
still
a failed-
waiting.
That's a failed
We're
policy.
still waiting 9 years
May I
later.
finish? You're waiting for Obama
Yeah,
to
please.
close.
Waiting.
President Hillary Clinton.
There's more people in the lineup for the toilet, you asshole. There's more people waiting to use the fucking crapper. Once you get out of there, I'm not done. I'm not done.
May I finish? Yeah.
May I finish
May I finish?
in
You have to
peace?
answer
This
answer the
guy
moderator
is a barrel of laughs in an airport bathroom. I bet.
question. The quote-unquote liberal media are not
Oh,
liberal.
I really should have put that as a comment on this one.
The mainstream media is in the business of making money.
Anybody watching?
That's why during the campaign, Donald Trump was
Is this
giving
still
billions of
streaming?
dollars in free media, with his speeches being carried live, his phone calls being carried live, where he lied consistently, lied about virtually everything he said.
Really, and you're being nice in general, but you don't actually have any proof of any of this. It's fine.
Again, he has told, according to the Washington Post count, I believe.
Yeah, but
he told-
Eric,
Oh, there's a nice picture. He looks like he's Jerry Lewis almost, but pervier, perhaps a little creepy.
just
Eric,
under
this
1,900
program,
lies.
this program is about.
You're not letting me finish.
Well,
a
no,
sentence.
You're not letting me finish. I'm not done.
because you're going into the weeds again. This program is about
Skippy Bot don't do
journalism.
lines. Skippy Bot's only for crashing into the CNN Titanic. That's what he's done. That's what he's there for. One professor question he simply cannot face is, what about Obama, mister? I wrote the book on presidential lies, 1339 and pass. 17 minutes for Patrick. Oh my God, I gotta skip forward. This is too crazy.
You don't need to hear the crickets on these
and
other
my-
topics, okay? I mean, birthers and, all
No,
this
it's
is
not
fine.
another topic.
What it's
You
about,
don't get it.
the
You don't get it. You're
professionalism
not-
of journalism, and they are breaking their bond with the public. The polls show it, okay? Let me go to Lionel. Last year, CBS News said, the president said, Trump is good for CBS for exactly the same reasons that Eric mentioned here. It's not about getting the story right. It's about the kind of propaganda that you want to propagate and make money off of it. That is a disgrace to journalism. You should stop calling it journalism then. Lionel, go ahead.
This is going to be one of the greatest interviews, discussions ever.
He knows.
This fella
He knows.
does exactly
I beg to differ.
what everybody hates. He is the
He begs already. He begs a lot, doesn't he? Doesn't he beg for everything? I'm not done. Would you please leave me alone? Please leave me alone while I'm shitting in this public terminal.
personification of that which we hate, prevarication and not admitting, which is
thank you,
true
Lionel.
and obvious to anybody. The issue that Peter asked was, what do you do about not fake news, not bias, because we can argue bias all day long, but what about when they just get it wrong? Then they just get it wrong. That's the framework,
17.
Mr. PhD. That's the framework. So
1851. CNN is really crappy, is what fucking Eric Skippy Bot said.
what this fella does is, instead of answering that because he can answer it, he's smart enough to realize, I have no answer. Let me throw in something about Trump being a liar. And that is the reason why the mainstream liberal media is dying. It's in its last throes. And everybody knows it. And you, sir, are Exhibit A. And I present to the jury, that is the world.
It's a real good characterization for this idiot.
This is what it's about. You can't even answer the question. All you had to do was just...
His reactions, right, are quite nervous. They're quite nervous, and nobody else is going to laugh at what he's laughing at. Nobody is going to laugh.
That the duty of journalism...
And he knows nobody's going to laugh, and if it was really that funny, do you think he'd stop laughing right away?
...is just to get it right. Would it have killed you?
He laughs like Billy Bush on a bus laughs, you know what I mean?
To say that, but you can't do it, because you know we got you in this one. And you, I guess maybe this is some kind of a...
CNN made a mistake in that.
What? You don't know what planet we're coming from? You should, so by definition, guess who should be in the mental ward if he doesn't know what planet we're coming from?
Patrick, let me go to Patrick here. But Patrick, one of the things, let's deal with facts here, unlike the liberal media that make things up. All right.
Patrick,
I mean,
Patrick for 17 minutes.
Agencies, it's assumed as a fact that the DNC was hacked, but the FBI never looked at the servers.
17.
The DNC didn't allow that. What I'm getting at is that you keep hearing on CNN, MSNBC, et cetera, they keep repeating the same unsubstantiated claims as if it is a law of gravity, and you never hear anybody.
For some reason, he'd had to do what there? Just watch this again.
They keep repeating the same unsubstantiated claims as if it is.
Poindexter has got this tell. Now, pay attention, I mean it. This is a tell for Poindexter here, for Skippybot, for whatever you want to call him.
Gravity, and you never hear anybody.
I wouldn't trust this man with anything in my life.
Pushing back there, this group.
It's nothing to do with the color of his skin. It's only to do with content of his.
This is exactly what it is. It's groupthink, and it's turned into a cult. It's a religious cult now they have, and anyone that violates it is considered a heretic. Go ahead, Patrick, like us, I suppose.
Yeah, first I will agree with Eric that it's not a liberal media exclusively per se. There happens to be a kind of a liberal hysterical insurgency right now in the mainstream media, but CNN will read straight off of Pentagon briefings or State Department briefings, and the New York Times will do the same straight off the party line on certain issues. So they really are there to protect the establishment, whether that's a liberal or a conservative establishment or a military establishment. You just have this hysteria going on. The problem with all journalistic standards have been thrown out the window in the last 18 months, because when it comes to anything Russia or Trump, but especially Russia, this is much bigger than Trump, by the way, this is as a geopolitical scope to it, it's tell, don't show. So the accusations get rolled out, but they don't actually have any evidence. Can someone find me one piece of evidence that Russia hacked the U.S. elections?
Washington Post is certainly coming up fucking dry, no, ain't it?
Colluded or meddled or anything. Nothing. The Facebook bot story that everybody ran with from the Washington Post to the New York Times.
Guess who the Skippy bot is?
If you really drill down on that story, that was a case of the Obama administration colluding with a Silicon Valley company, Facebook. Senator Warner from Virginia did multiple trips over there to try to extract some story about Russian bots. Finally, Facebook capitulated and gave him a narrative about all these...
He doesn't want to be paying attention to any of this content.
Russian bots.
This will fuck up his understanding inside of the circle, right?
Purchasing Facebook ads. It's a laugh, and that dominated the United States mainstream, all networks, news cycles for I don't know how. I bet you
goddamn there ain't nothing which would frustrate a certain mindset more than thinking they'll know when to laugh when everybody else is laughing and never being right about it.
Along weeks, okay? That is a fake story. That is a fabricated narrative. It's designed for a specific political purpose. The problem with political journalists and biased partisan journalists, and Eric, I think you, unfortunately, you do fall into that category, is that you're good for the party, but you're really not good for America.
Thank you. or anybody for that matter. In the fuzzy yarbles, Patrick. This has been a holiday message approved by the Hat Trick for Patrick Foundation, 3191. We're not all Americans. Skippybot for 2052.
Because you're
Remember,
picking one
1851 was the first time code.
side, and you're letting the people who are singing your song off the hook every single time. That is the problem.
Okay, let me go to Eric. You know, Eric, we had David from The Atlantic. There's the same man that brought us WMDs in Iraq, coined the phrase axis of evil. Okay,
Axis of evil.
And he in The Atlantic was on CNN, and he said about this story.
I mean, to be fair, at the time, there was somebody behind him going,
"Axis
of evil."
Emails, WikiLeaks to the Trump campaign. He said, mistakes are precisely the reason that people should trust the media. Okay, try to swallow that. It's the process of bringing truth to light. I mean,
He's swallowed a lot in his life. Like, he doesn't think about laughing about that. Yeah, swallow means you don't starve.
This has got to be the most Orwellian thing I think I've ever heard in media. Okay, because we're wrong, people should trust us. What the hell is he talking about?
Well, I'm not here as David Frum's representative, but I imagine.
Yeah, but you used his words.
Out of context, as
No,
virtually
no,
everything
not at
I
all.
on this
I
show.
took it exactly
Taken out of
from.
context.
I wrote it
Wait,
out.
I don't get it.
See
I
that?
don't
Okay,
get it. I don't
you
get it.
just
Fucking
dismiss it.
asshole.
Dismiss it.
May I
Oh,
address
out of
the point?
context.
I don't get it.
Okay, really?
No.
You
yeah.
took it out of context. Oh, really?
May I address
Really?
the-
Yeah, we dragged him into the,
which
we
I-
dragged the cockroach into the light and started, hitting it with a rock. Is that what you're talking about? The cockroach, which was operating the human, never mind.
I'm not here to defend. I think they do a crappy job. But CNN apologized for its mistake. When
It
has
didn't
Donald
explain
Trump
to its
apologized for
viewers
his-
why it made.
Let's just go back there a little bit.
Really? I
No,
mean,
yeah, it probably is. But may I address your
Okay.
point?
May I address your point?
CNN, which
CNN,
I'm not here to defend. I
which I'm not here to defend,
think they do a crappy job.
I think they do a crappy job. Second time, motherfucker, that he said the exact same words about CNN. Hit on a point twice because he was fucking well told to do so. Fuck you, Skippybot. Fuck you.
Out of context.
I don't get it.
Okay, really?
No,
I mean,
yeah, it probably is. But may I address your
Okay.
point?
Hit against CNN
which
3
I'm not
times
here to
during the course of
defend,
this whole
I think they do
thing.
a crappy job. But CNN
Just drop the fucking
apologized
mic,
for
idiot.
its mistake. When
It
has
didn't
Donald
explain
Trump
to its
apologized for
viewers
his-
why
This
it
is-
made
this
that
is-
mistake. It
this
did
is
not
substandard
explain
bot.
No transparency. They demanded from
It's this
everybody
eminently
else.
hackable
They demanded
bot.
from Donald Trump, but they give their
Lionel could hack him in his sleep. Dude in the corner could. So could the host.
viewers
All three
no
could hack him.
transparency after what they've been doing for 18 months. Okay, never any transparency.
I'm not here to defend CNN.
I'm not here. I'm
CNN
not
doesn't
asking you
pay
to be
me.
their lawyer.
I don't care what they do.
I do.
He divested himself from CNN 3 weeks ago.
I
Yeah.
care what the
So
media
my-
does.
The idiot.
I
I'm
think
trying
as
to
journalists
explain
we have a
something to you. I'm trying to
responsibility.
explain something to
You
you.
have a degree in it, right, of journalism. I think you know what kind of responsibilities go along with the profession.
No,
Look at Lionel laughing in the corner.
Lionel,
have
go
a
ahead, jump
PhD.
in. Go ahead.
I don't have a degree in journalism.
You know-
So that's another mistake.
It's almost as if the Skippybot was trying to sink CNN Titanic. 2315 is the next one.
It would have been better.
Maybe you want to apologize for that.
I
This is what
apologize.
this fella
Okay, I
is
made a
in the world
mistake.
of rap.
See, a real journalist
Good
can
job.
do it. A real journalist can
job.
do it. Okay, I don't have to carry water for CNN or anybody.
I don't have to try and make him sink faster either.
I need one here.
Go ahead, Lionel.
Bad, Peter. Bad. What could have been done was originally what this fella could have done. This fella.
He did not like that at all. He did not like that joke at all. Did you hear that? Maybe we should hear this again.
For CNN or
I'd
anybody
like to
else.
meet one here.
Go ahead, Lionel.
Excuse me?
I don't have to carry water for CNN or anybody
I'd like
else.
to meet one here.
Go
What did you say?
do it, okay? I don't have to carry water for CNN or anybody
I'd like
else.
to meet one here.
Need to meet one here, someone worth talking to, okay? Listen. Listen.
Go ahead, Lionel.
Bad, Peter. Bad.
Watch the reaction.
Bad. Now, what could have been done
What?
was originally what this fella could have done. This fella could have said, look, we live in a different...
He just got told. He just got schooled with his own words twice. And when he said bad Peter, he was terrified that his own name was Peter.
...world right now.
How about that?
Machine. It's this runaway train. It's this monster.
SkippyBot is really broken. SkippyBot is so broken, it's not even funny. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
You got to feed constantly. The days of Cronkite, the days of being able to sit around in your office and luxuriate until 6 o'clock and double and triple check, that's a part of the problem. Maybe there's a zealousness. Maybe there's a part of bias. He could have answered that. That's a real problem because it's the immediacy. It's the days of social media. It's the fact that citizen and civilian journalists and alternative
23:15. We got another like 40 seconds of this.
Foreign media are chomping at the bit. All right, and chomping at the heels.
He's pissed as fuck and he can't jump in right now because he knows he might actually get crucified.
Of these people, I understand that. Now, but that could have been done. But instead, and this is the point, and I hope, Peter, that somehow everybody remembers it.
You keep saying Peter, right?
And just takes
the host's name, the guy who's the moderator, his name is Peter.
Takes this
how convenient
fella's comment and just says, this is the problem. It's always Trump. Even when you could have very easily said, okay, look, I'll make a concession. Look at it. No, even though we don't give an inch. The same thing with Russia. Even though right now we've been talking about this story and not one person in any medium or the media collectively has ever been able to say, here is the best.
See that reaction? 23:15. Be ready. Lionel has set up and delivered the point so deftly that the reaction in the top left corner is monstrous. Fucking monstrous.
Medium or the media collectively has ever been able to say, here is the best evidence of any kind of collusion or changing.
Yeah, he realized that he wanted to try to put down collective power, and then he realized right afterward that he was dissing the very thing which got him in the power position he's in. Fuck you, mister. SkippyBot is out on the... You know what happens to SkippyBots when they don't work anymore? You know what they do to old hard drives?
The photos or whatever, even though that's never been done, they don't miss a beat and they don't give in and you just keep forward. That's the problem. And when in doubt, when your back is against the wall, when you have absolutely nothing to say,
okay, Lionel, let me jump in here. Let me give Patrick the last word.
Patrick doesn't get much of a last word. But hey. This is the tab. I'm going to show you this before we get back into the chat room. I'm kind of curious though. Nobody in the live chat. It's all right. Since I'm not showing the room, I don't expect to see anybody. Before we go any further in the podcast though, or in the Banjocast, pitchforks and flaming torches, I'd like to give you an idea what the highlights right now are of recently visited web pages I've used on Facebook. Or sorry, not Facebook, on Firefox. So here, for example, I've recently been to Facebook. I've recently been to my own channel. This is my channel information. I've recently had to look up the Swedish number, which is no longer in service, but that is the Swedish number right there. The idea was that you would call the number, get connected to a random Swede, and talk about anything. It doesn't work anymore. Don't bother trying. But other than that, I've been looking up. These three are the next top three. Neil Stevenson on social media. Magic Leap's next move, a Wired article on what Magic Leap is doing, whether or not it actually has any basis behind it. And then finally, strategy speculation of how Magic Leap could dominate the mixed reality market, which is a Reddit discussion. I'm not going to visit any of these three, just merely things that I've been looking into for research purposes. And I figured it might actually be interesting to show that. I don't know much about everything, but I know something about a lot of different things. Maybe that's a good way of putting it. And some of the things I know by extension or by application, not necessarily by first principle, which, well, first principle is ideal, when you can lock it down kind of thing. And I'm looking for YouTube. And I'm looking for Blender. I was thinking about what to say, having watched that little bit of media, that little clip. Something which would have been broadcast today on RT, and something which was uploaded and made, was provided by the generosity of one of the people that was involved in it. It's the only way I could put it. Lionel doesn't lose anything by letting his views be known. It's a direct application from a lawyer of the freedom of expression, free speech, and the First Amendment. His First Amendment rights as an American. Is how I understand it. It's part of his agreement that he will be allowed to do that. I've got a thing here called Zapruder. It's tempting to use that, but maybe I won't. I'll use my defaults for now. In Blender. Here's Blender turned on. Oh wow. Yeah, my clock isn't turned. My clock isn't working. What the? Oh, I didn't think of that. I can rectify that right away. Whoa. Thought the clock was broken. It isn't. That is the current revised Iridian stardate. My name is James PFP. I had mentioned it earlier. I'll go by James. You can call me that. Or Jim sometimes, depending. I thought earlier about an interesting way of... I think I should probably do some talking or, you know, kind of whiteboard an idea on a stream first, and maybe I'll come back to it later and cut out the things that I want to say, or take the things from it that I've already said that I don't want to have to say again. However, I've got a way. I want to learn how to tell a story, and I know that it's the story of something I've experienced, and I can't claim to have the knowledge of the person who I observed as I participated in the story. But in my own way, I can analogize from it. I can see where there's parallels in this person's ability to do a specific type of thing and my ability to do a specific type of thing, that's what makes it interesting to me. What's even more interesting, though, is to be able to share that ability with other people. Is it an innate trait that I can understand that as he understood that? His thing, was it an innate, or was it something that he had learned from observation or however else, from the culture that he participated in? So to tell the story, I don't have any footage to work with, and I really actually would like to take a break before I start, because we was going about 45 minutes. I'll keep going for a bit. There may actually be somebody watching. I don't know. To tell the story, then, I'm a person. This really comes out of what happened on the channel last night. And last night I got into something I wanted to deliver. It was content that I had thought of, which was derivative content, but at the same time it's criticism type content, so it's artistic and therefore should be usable under fair use. I should probably set all of them to Creative Commons, for example. Reuse allowed. But because certain content doesn't have... I don't have the license for it because it's content from elsewhere, I wouldn't do that. YouTube is getting the licensing for all of my streams, but I have actually made I've challenged a specific copyright strike because it's fair use and I don't intend to use it for monetization purposes anyway. The fact that they want to get any kind of pay from whatever traffic it's going to get because it's got particular spectacular bull crap on it, no. I don't expect to actually get a lot of views either, but maybe the views I get will matter. So we'll see what happens. Anyhow, first thing. The type of content I'm interested in working with is as close to the raw material as possible. This is because I've come to my understanding of how to work with video from grassroots level. I'm not interested in working with the media as it is. Not interested in working with the system. Much more interested in having direct access because of technological ability, technological access, having the tools and also something like the internet to work with. Having direct control or direct access to it. That's what really makes me excited. Like, I don't much want to listen to crap on the media, especially when it's bull. Like, it's bad enough when it's crap, but then when it's also lies, that's crap. Oh man. The having it as close to raw, therefore, means being ready to deal with stuff straight off of a device or whatever else. And how best to make use of what that material is without necessarily having to spend a heck of a lot of money on specific pieces of software. So if you're interested in learning how to take this raw footage and cutting it up into interesting pieces or getting rid of the bits that nobody wants to watch, the moment when you were filming and looking straight up your own nose, or the moment when the camera was covered with your hand and you can't see anything anyway, and whatever. You only need the audio for that part, even better. But I have a reason for thinking about it in those terms. And I'm going to tell the story to let it be known why. I come from a culture where poaching is a very real thing. It's the only way to explain it. Poaching is such a very real thing. It's the second part of last night's live stream. Poaching is so real that to encounter people that would dare to pretend that poachers do not exist because a bureaucrat says so, or a documentary says so, or whatever. They don't really know what the world is like. They're living in a fucking dream where specific things just can't be because it ain't that way. One of the reasons why poaching happens is economic disparity. It's not people that are out looking for bear pelts. It's people that are starving, that need something else to eat, got no other way of getting it. Don't have a license. They're therefore by definition poaching. And depending on the jurisdiction, they may well be charged as poachers, taking certain types of animal out of season or what have you, even if it is to feed themselves. Some people exist entirely upon game which has been largely poached, and sometimes they're serviced by particular individuals in their community that do all or most of the poaching, and then through one means or another they barter or exchange the food for other things to the people around them. And that's the way that poaching goes unobserved and unthought of and not even considered as poaching at all, in a way. There's a different class of poachers, is another way of looking at it. The ones who are socially acceptable and the ones who are not socially acceptable. The ones who cause a problem of some kind, for whatever reason, those are the poachers who must be eliminated and who the bureaucrats are out to get. And the other kind of poachers, well, if they're doing it right, then nobody will know they're even there. Why won't they know they're even there? Well, I'll tell you why. You don't waste anything off of something that you've taken and that you intend to eat because you're hungry. So when the fish comes out of the water, if you yourself do not know how to clean the fish, you're in a bit of a dilemma. If you don't know how to take the fish and cut it into pieces or take fillets from it or clean it in terms of removing its innards or the skin or the scales or whatever the particular fish has, if you're not the person who's been brought up in I came from the culture that knew how to do that, but I had not learned how to do that type of thing, say, to a fish which was poached. And I'm going to tell you, poached fish tastes like nothing else. I mean, straight out of the water. I've had it baked, I've had it fried, I've had it in any number of casseroles, I've had it this way, I've had it this way, that way, pan, pan-fried or baked, or you couldn't name the ways I've had cod. Poached is the way I like it the best. It's so very succulent when it's so close to the water, is the thing. It's the amount of processing involved between the fish in the water and in the pot and then in your mouth is so small, so minimal. And every single piece of the fish went in the pot other than the guts. This was during a period of time when it would have been possible for severe economic penalties to be applied to any person or their family that allowed that kind of thing to happen. It's ridiculous to think that that's the truth, but it's bad. Like, to me, it's a crime in and of itself that a bureaucracy would even think that way. And to know that there's economic forces in this world that would like us Newfoundlanders to think of ourselves as the ones. You are to blame for overfishing your own cod stocks. Oh, I'm telling you, that's what the corporate mind thinks, and the corporate mind is in for a rude awakening, and very soon. It does not like hearing stuff like that. It hates hearing stuff like that. And I could give a damn. Consequently, though, I am a person who doesn't know how to cut the fish. I'm a person who knows how to cut the footage. So that if you look at the last thing I released as an upload to YouTube, not as a live stream, but as a regular upload, the YYZ to YYT thing, you'll notice that there's very little cutting involved. It's all in compilation to get the most out of what short clips I had. And in compilation, we have something which is between a sixth and a seventh of the length of the entirety of the trip that I took. Most of the time I was spent there watching a bloody movie on the back, like on the seat back in front of me. Funny to think I just had a little bump at 27 frames as I got into talking about really interesting stuff. So yeah, the corporate mind, it don't like thinking about truth. It likes thinking about its projections and what's coming up down the pipe. I have noticed this as a truth. What else can I actually say about the process of poaching fish? Well, I can say this as well. It was in the course of poaching a fish that I wanted to eat that I found out quite by accident that there were other fish I also wanted to eat. Different fish. Which is a weird thing to reflect upon, but it does make kind of sense to what it is I intend to do on YouTube. I'm not doing anything right now, but this is a editing software over here to the side that I intend to use for doing my thing. And when I do my thing, I wonder, is that what's causing the lag? And it doesn't seem to be. When I do my thing on YouTube, sometimes it is or on the editing side of YouTube before putting it up on YouTube. When I was doing, say, what I did on live stream back in September, what to really say about it. It was a bit of a fish that I hadn't considered tasting before. That's a really good way of putting it. It's a documentary project, and I tried to explain it at the time. A documentary project that was working with footage I myself had not provided. So my ability to actually verify what any of this footage is or how genuine it is limited by overall availability against the net. The only thing I could really insist on is to get as close to the original source as possible so that I can be sure what the frame rates are, so I can be sure to put them all together at the same frame rate so we can be sure that measurements and time are going to line up. It's an interesting thing to have to worry about, but it's fairly technical, and unless you're interested in the technical details, you don't need to learn about something like Blender, which is exactly the reason why I use the thing like Blender, and why it is I'm interested in doing it at a grassroots level and not at a corporate controlled level, especially when corporate controlled media has got a lot of bullcrap to push and peddle. And they hate hearing the words bad Peter, don't they? Except the people that are laughing at them when they realize their power doesn't mean what it used to. And they should understand They should understand collective power better than they actually do. That's what's really funny. Here's an interesting thing to think about, I guess. I hadn't really considered this. I haven't said much more about it this last week either. John Podesta, for some reason, there was a lot of pinging against him this week too about him being a Jesuit. Now, I don't know what's true or not true about that. I have absolutely no idea. Do I find it hard to believe? Not really. Do I have a specific reason to believe it? That was a harder one to answer. It would answer some questions, I think, in terms of how could it be? How could it possibly be that there is some kind of a credit which is worth enough and can prevent and would allow for what seems to be evidently true? And that might be one of the things. I wasn't much concerned as to what he was. Do you mean he went to a Jesuit school? Do you mean he continues to worship in a Jesuit context? I don't know. Does he associate only with males? Because that's a Jesuitic thing to do, I believe. I don't actually have any new footage to get at tonight either. I should probably just call it quits for tonight's live stream. I do believe Lionel did the hard work. Almost all the hard work. And it was well worth waiting for. Yeah, I wanted to say this too, and I've been thinking about this beforehand. I'm sick and tired of Twitter determining what truth is going to look like with a video camera. That's not Twitter's fucking point. It never was Twitter's point. For Twitter to try to steal it is bullshit. Is to appropriate it is bullshit. And the way to fight against Twitter is not to throw a hissy fit on Twitter. No. It's to shame Twitter with the lack of its ability to show the truth because it decides to use such small pieces of video. As if a little tiny clip is going to tell you everything. The picture worth 1,000 words, and a Twitter post is only 140. So let's start telling the truth, Twitter. A little less clipping, a lot more. Let's get to the point. I'll tell you what else Twitter has been doing. It's been propping up a lot of bullshit coming out of countries who are supposedly fighting against terrorism. And it turns out that the terrorists are wearing white helmets. And we had something to do with that. And nobody wants to face up to it. And Canada is going to have some fun with that one. I guarantee you some of the funding came from Canada. Oh man, shit sandwich, everybody takes a bite. YouTube, this is Blender. I'm going to take a shortish break. I really can't take the break here in the house. No, I unfortunately have a signed agreement which says I do not smoke cigarettes in the house. I agree to this. I agree to it wholeheartedly. So as a consequence, I infrequently take a 5-minute break. However, to make sure that I at least compensate you slightly for the break in content, me talking, because I can't see why else you might be listening. I do from time to time offer some musical content. I do believe this is the last thing that was playing.
Thank you. A bit of pad song there for you.
The last time I did play something.
So before I got down here, I went over my long list of songs that I haven't played in at least a year. And this is high on the list.
The tuning is a little off. Yeah. Getting there.
This one is high on the list.
How high?
But I'm not doing too much who tonight.
The jumping?
High on the list, but I was thinking perhaps I could do it differently than normal too. I'm not quite sure if it's possible. But
This is different than normal. I think I would enjoy doing this.
For I've been a wild rover and many's the year, and I spent all my money on whiskey and beer. And now I'm returning with golden great store. Not never gonna play that wild rover no more. And it's no, may never, and right up your kilt, no, they never no more. Well, I play the wild rover, no, never no more. Then I went to an alehouse where I used to frequent, and I told the landlady that my money was spent. When I asked her for credit, she answers me nay. For a custom like yours I can find any day. And it's no, nay, never, and right up your kilt, no, nay, never, no more. Well, I play the wild rover, no, never, no more. Pocket and I take out sovereigns bright, watch them landladies' eyes open wild with delight. She says we got whiskeys, we got wines of the best, and the words that I spoke, sir, they was only in jest. And it's a no, nay, never, and right up your kilt, no, nay, never, no more. Well, I play the wild rover, no, never, no more. So I'll go back to my parents and confess what I done. Then I'll ask them to pardon this prodigal son. And should they caress me as oft times before, I'll not never go and play that wild rover no more. And it's no, nay, never, and right up your kilt, no, nay, never, no more. Well, they play the wild rover, no, never, no more. Up your kilt, no, they never, no more. Well, I play the wild rover, no, never, no more. Ah, that took you strange, huh? Thank you, thank you. I got penicillin shot earlier, boys. You don't have to worry about the class. All right, I don't got to worry about the class. Next one's called 30-Foot Trailer. This is by Ewan McConnell. He's from Ireland. He was from Ireland, I should say. First time I heard this song, I thought actually this is a strange one because it sounds so nice, but it must belong to a play or something. It probably does. For the old ways are changing, you cannot deny. The day of the traveler is over. There's nowhere to go and there's nowhere to bide. So farewell to the life of a rover. Farewell to the Kent, to the old caravan, to the tinker and gypsy and traveling man, and goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. Farewell to the fields where we sweated and toiled and hauling and shoving and lifting. They're bringing machines and then traveling queens, and their menfolk had better be shifting. Farewell to the tent, to the old caravan, to the tinker and gypsy and traveling man, and goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. So farewell to the canto, the Romany tongue, farewell to the Romany talking, the buying and selling and the old fortune telling, the knock on the door and the hawking. sooner pay for a thing that's been made out of plastic. So farewell to the tent, to the old caravan, to the tinker and gypsy and traveling man, and goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. For the old ways are passing and soon will be gone, and Argus is a great factor to send to afflict us, and one day evict us. They'll haul us away with a tractor. Farewell to the tent, to the old caravan, to the tinker and gypsy and traveling men, and goodbye to your 30-foot trailer. Farewell to the pony, the cob, and the mare. The harness and reins have gone idle. You don't need a strap when you're breaking up straps. So farewell to the bit and the bridle. Farewell to the...
Yeah, that might have been a mistake there. I hit stop rather than pause on the particular player I like using for music. Waiting for a cup of tea to finish warming up as well. Won't be very long. Ping behind me. Oh. So, I don't know if I've got anything else to talk about tonight other than what I've already talked about. It might be nice to talk about it more. Don't know. Not getting a lot of feedback. That's okay. Can survive with or without feedback. I have managed for a long time. But I am rather curious, I have to admit, as to what the future is going to bring for certain ways of thought, given climate and stuff. Climate and other aspects of reality. Oh man, now there's an idea. Tea, throat lozenge. Oh, win. Careful not to swallow your throat lozenge with your tea. That could be embarrassing. Spit take of the century. Oh my goodness, is that ever good? Yeah, I really should, I suppose. Here's an interesting thing to consider. Open recent, I got a file here called Zapruder. Oh yeah, I started at a specific point there. Here in Blender, I've loaded all of the Zapruder film, frame by frame, from a series of still shots. You can see them up here in the window. Z01 is the very first one. This one here is Z01, 001. 132, 133 is where there's a cut. See that? Huge cut. Allows for the motorcade to get all the way around. So really from here onwards when we're interested in Zapruder. I'm also interested in Zapruder. Have been for a long time. Have seen more than one analysis of Zapruder, some of them on YouTube already. I'm interested in it because there's a couple things we could do with it, like motion stabilizing. It wouldn't be hard to allow for some of the jitter. Not that it's difficult or hard to understand what's happening in the frames themselves. So we don't need to see the render. And I can clip the bottom end of the image right there. In this frame, which one is it? Play edge 224. Emerges from behind. You see his hands going upward. Kennedy. He's already obviously been shot. At least once. Something is definitely wrong. Not only that, but I draw your attention to Governor Connolly, front part of the car. Also Jackie. Jackie notices. People on the bike, Secret Servicemen, people waving. She notices. Watch Connolly. Oh, he notices. Because Connolly is also shot. Okay? Jackie knows. Connolly definitely knows. Connolly's wife now knows. This is the point of time when Zapruder and the president are closest together. Just going by the motion of the car as it passes by and what the angles have to be. You can think of this as it's funny to think about this, but we can think of this as a naval gunnery problem for a second. And the car is passing alongside of us, and we're looking at the starboard side of the car. And we're looking from the front of the car towards the center line of the car. Right here, I'm indicating with the mouse, I think. Yeah. So this length is the starboard side of the car. And we'll call them this door the midline, the beam. So we're looking forward and toward this angle. And as the car passes, we're getting closer. It's getting closer to us by like a right degree angle, 90 degree relationship. People right behind him at this moment in time. There will be people behind him for the next several frames. Grass behind. Has he only been shot once or twice? But I don't know what he got shot twice there. If he shot twice there and the third shot's in his head, there's no way Oswald did it. Not alone. Because Connolly's already reacting. And Connolly don't look like he's too happy. And Connolly goes back right there. It seems to indicate to me something happened to Connolly more or less the same time that it happened to him. But Connolly didn't get no headshot. Here's another interesting artifact I've noticed in this particular Zapruder set. I'm going to have to beg your forgiveness for having shown this graphic information on YouTube, but draw attention to this. I'm going to zoom back a little bit. This and this are artifacts belonging, and that there. I'm going to turn on this other layer to make this more clear. And here, then here. So this is that. That angle, immediately following this shot, indicates the path of the bullet on the way out. Or some kind of fragmentary matter going off in one direction in quite high velocity. If that's from something splintering away in just the right angle, I don't know, but what else has got that kind of velocity to make that true? I don't know. I'm going to turn off this adjustment layer again. Again, forgive me for showing the graphicness of this particular piece of film. However, I now draw your attention to a third thing. Please watch Jackie. Connolly is quite clearly down with his wife. He's running to keep up, jump on. She's moving back. To try to get out of the car. Now, sometimes this story is told that she's scooping up his brains here on the back. I see no evidence of that. Not before, not after. Where are the brains that she's scooping? I suppose they could be there. You can see there's some splotching and coloration issues. But I don't think there's any brains there. She's trying to exit the vehicle by moving backward toward where the shooter was. That don't make sense. It would make more sense to me that she thinks the shooter's somewhere in front of the car if she's trying to get out from the back of the car. I can't understand any other way of explaining that. She's convinced to get back in the car. She does so and she gets down, so that's what she was told to do, I presume. I draw attention again to the fact that you can see what the back of the car looks like previous to, during, there's the splash, there's the spray. It goes up and away from the car to the front. Where's the brains? I'll tell you one thing, they're not back here. Jackie's actions have been incorrectly presented ever since. To explain why she moved back to the left-ish. Why did she go back toward where the supposed gunman shot from? Why would she present herself back that way? She might have been confused as to where the shot came from. Yes. But that's not the explanation they gave, and therefore don't take my explanation as their proper explanation. It isn't theirs. It's my explanation, but it doesn't explain that. She might have been mistaken, or she might have been right. There, so that's that. That's the Zapruder. No sign of any trouble up here. Well, maybe right there. Frame rate for this is 18.03 frames per second. You can quite literally see him jump there. But his hands are already up when he jumps. Again, the only reason I point out some of these features here, if there were, say, for example, a grassy knoll shot, you might expect to see a bullet hit back here from the angle. And how did he miss Jackie? Well, she moves in front of him, right here. He's totally in the clear. If this is a grassy knoll shot, where's the bullet hit back here? We should almost see it. These people are almost in the way, but not quite. Is that something like a rock on the grass back there? I might expect to see something back here, is what I think, if there's a grassy knoll shot. A hit or a miss. Or that's a ricochet bullet. She would have been in the clear for a grassy knoll shot, I think. And that explains her motion. That explains why she does what she does. Call me a conspiracy nut if you wish, or whatever. I think it's interesting. Yeah, that pretty much concludes tonight's broadcast, I think. I need to get some more particular media lined up. You could wait here for a few minutes and I pull some stuff off my phone, because I did take a whole bunch while I was away. And I was looking at it earlier. Pictures that didn't turn out. Oh yeah, I got cat video for all the good that'll do me. I was actually quite pleased with this one. Peak concurrent 1. Great. It's better than none, I have to admit. Yeah, I really can't show you this on the phone, on the camera. I'll have to take it off my phone and make it really useful. Turn off the effects of my camera, maybe. That's taken from the outside of Toronto Airport. 3 stone figures standing tall. Thanks for watching, YouTube. My name's James PFP. If you got anything to add or to deconstruct or tear to pieces, you do as you wish in the comment section. Leave a like or subscribe if you like what you see. Thank you for watching.